David looked at Ogochi, his eyes filled with a mixture of concern and determination. He could see the uncertainty in her gaze, the questions lingering behind her stoic expression. They stood in the middle of the small, cozy living room, the air thick with the tension of unspoken words. David took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts, before speaking softly but firmly. "Okay, Ogochi, I want to be a part of this child's life." Ogochi's heart skipped a beat at his words. For so long, she had carried the weight of this situation alone, bracing herself for judgment and rejection. But here was David, offering something she had dared not hope for, his presence and support. "I know this has been difficult," David continued, his voice steady, "but I care about you. I always have. And now, knowing I'm the father, it changes everything. I want to be there for both you and our child." A wave of relief washed over Ogochi, releasing a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. The tension in her shoulders eased as she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, things could work out. She had always had feelings for David, and knowing he was the father brought a strange sense of comfort and clarity. It made everything a little easier to bear. She nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Thank you, David. I want that too." The two of them decided to take things one step at a time. They sat down together, discussing their hopes and fears for the future. The conversations filled with honesty and a shared commitment to their child. They agreed that rushing into a relationship for the sake of the baby wouldn't be wise. Instead, they focused on building a foundation of trust and mutual respect. David suggested they start by preparing for the baby, attending prenatal classes, and setting up a safe, nurturing environment. Ogochi appreciated his practical approach, realizing that David was serious about being an active part of their child's life. The other men, though disappointed by the outcome, handled the news with maturity. They expressed their wishes for Ogochi's happiness and even offered their support in any way they could, showing that their concern for her went beyond the paternity issue. Together, Ogochi and David began to plan for the future, balancing their new responsibilities with the realities of their own personal growth. They decided to move slowly, taking the time to learn about each other in this new context of impending parenthood. It was a challenging process, but each day they grew more confident in their ability to create a loving, stable home for their child. As news of Ogochi's situation spread through the community, whispers followed her everywhere she went. People would pause in their conversations when she passed by, their eyes filled with curiosity or judgment. The once vibrant, supportive community that she had always felt a part of now seemed distant and cold. But Ogochi, determined not to let the gossip affect her, held her head high. She reminded herself that she was doing the best she could for her child, and that was all that mattered. David's unwavering support gave her the strength to face each day. He accompanied her on her walks through the market, his presence a silent but powerful statement of solidarity. Whenever someone cast a judgmental glance or made a snide comment, David would simply wrap an arm around her waist, a gesture that spoke volumes about his commitment. Together, they attended church and community events, refusing to hide from the scrutiny. Over time, some of the more understanding members of the community began to offer kind words and encouragement. Slowly but surely, the tide of gossip began to reduce, replaced by a quiet respect for the way Ogochi and David were handling the situation. When Ogochi finally told her family the truth, the news hit them like a tidal wave. Her mother gasped in disbelief, while her father fell silent, his face a mask of shock. For a long moment, the room was filled with a heavy silence, broken only by the ticking of the old wall clock. Her parents struggled to reconcile the image of their well-behaved daughter with the reality of her situation. "How did this happen?" her mother asked, her voice trembling. "Ogochi, this is not what we expected from you." Her father remained quiet, staring at the floor, lost in thought. Ogochi, feeling the weight of their disappointment, explained everything as best she could. She told them about the confusion, the paternity test, and David's commitment to being there for the baby. She also expressed her deep regret for how things had turned out, but she was determined to move forward with their support. Over time, as the initial shock wore off, her parents began to soften. They could see that their daughter was genuinely trying to make the best of a difficult situation. Her mother, in particular, began to step up, offering advice and comfort. She would visit Agochi often, bringing homemade meals and fruits to ensure both mother and baby were healthy. Her father, though still processing the situation, eventually came around. He admired David's integrity and his willingness to take responsibility. When David formally introduced himself and expressed his intentions, her father nodded approvingly, recognizing the young man's sincerity. Slowly but surely, Agochi's family began to accept the reality, choosing to support their daughter rather than dwell on their disappointment. As Agochi and David spent more time together, they realized that their relationship would require patience and effort to grow. Trust wasn't something that could be built overnight, especially given the circumstances. There were moments of doubt, where Agochi would wonder if David's commitment would waver, or if their different personalities and life experiences would create insurmountable barriers. David, too, had his own concerns. He worried about the pressures of fatherhood, about whether he could truly be the partner Agochi needed. The road ahead wasn't without its bumps, and both of them knew it. But they were determined to make it work, not just for their child, but for themselves as well. They had long, honest conversations, sometimes late into the night, about their fears, hopes, and the mistakes they had made in the past. These talks, though difficult, brought them closer, allowing them to understand each other on a deeper level. They also made a conscious effort to spend time together outside of baby preparations, trying to nurture the bond between them as a couple. It was during these quiet moments, sharing a meal, taking a walk, or simply sitting in comfortable silence, that they began to trust each other more fully. As Agochi's pregnancy progressed, she and David threw themselves into preparing for their baby's arrival. They attended prenatal classes together, learning about everything from labor techniques to infant care. David took these classes seriously, determined to be as knowledgeable and prepared as possible. He wanted to be a hands-on father, someone their child could always rely on. They spent weekends shopping for baby clothes, choosing soft blankets, tiny onesies, and all the little necessities they never knew they would need. Decorating the nursery became a joint project, with Agochi selecting the colors and themes, and David handling the painting and furniture assembly. The room gradually transformed into a warm, inviting space, filled with love and anticipation. As the due date approached, the excitement began to overshadow the fears and uncertainties they had faced. They both knew that parenthood would be challenging, but they also felt ready to meet those challenges head-on. Friends and family came together to throw them a baby shower, showering them with gifts and well wishes, making them feel supported and loved. It was a time of joyful anticipation, as they eagerly awaited the arrival of their little one. The day finally came when Agochi went into labor. It was early in the morning when she felt the first contractions, a sharp reminder that the baby was on its way. She woke David, who immediately sprang into action, helping her to the car and driving quickly but carefully to the hospital. The labor was long and intense, hours stretching into what felt like an eternity. Agochi gripped David's hand through every contraction, her face a mix of pain and determination. David stayed by her side, offering words of encouragement, his own emotions a swirling mix of fear, awe, and overwhelming love. Finally, after what seemed like an endless struggle, their baby boy entered the world with a loud, healthy cry. Agochi's exhaustion melted away as she held her son for the first time, tears of joy streaming down her face. David, too, felt a surge of emotion as he gazed at their newborn, realizing that everything they had gone through was worth it. They named him Miracle, a God's gift and a reminder of the blessing he was in their lives. The first few weeks of parenthood were a whirlwind of sleepless nights and endless diaper changes. Agochi and David found themselves in a new world of feeding schedules, crying spells, and the overwhelming responsibility of caring for a newborn. They were exhausted, often running on just a few hours of sleep, but the joy they felt whenever they looked at Miracle made it all worthwhile. Agochi quickly adapted to her role as a mother, learning to soothe her baby with soft words and gentle touches. David, too, embraced fatherhood, taking on diaper duty and late-night feedings without hesitation. They supported each other, sharing the workload and encouraging one another when the stress seemed too much. As Agochi and David settled into their new roles as parents, They quickly realized the immense value of having a strong support system. Amaka, ever the loyal friend, was true to her word. She became a constant presence in their lives, often stopping by with home-cooked meals or taking Miracle off their hands for a few hours so that Agochi and David could catch up on much-needed rest. Her advice, drawn from her experience with her younger siblings, was invaluable, particularly during those early days when everything felt so new and overwhelming. Even the other men, who had once been potential fathers, surprised Agochi with their kindness. Though the situation could have been awkward, they chose instead to rise above it, understanding the importance of the child's well-being. Each in their way, they contributed to a positive environment, whether by dropping off groceries, offering to run errands, or simply checking in to see how Agochi and David were coping. Their support was unexpected but deeply appreciated, serving as a reminder that unity can come from the most unlikely places. The young couple was also grateful for the involvement of their families. Agochi's parents, who had initially been skeptical of David, began to see the genuine love and commitment he had for their daughter and grandson. Slowly but surely, their interactions warmed, and they started to provide the guidance and support that only parents could offer. David's family, on the other hand, welcomed Agochi and Miracle with open arms from the very beginning, embracing them wholeheartedly as new members of their family. Their combined support provided a safety net that made navigating the complexities of parenthood just a little bit easier. Despite the overwhelming support, parenthood was not without its challenges. Sleepless nights became the norm as Miracle struggled with colic, often crying for hours on end. Agochi and David found themselves at their wits' end, taking turns pacing the floor with their son, desperate for any method that might soothe him. The exhaustion led to moments of frustration, where they snapped at each other over trivial things, the stress wearing down their patience. David, juggling his job and new fatherhood, felt the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. He wanted to provide the best for his family, but often felt like he was falling short. Agochi, too, faced her own battles. The transition from her once carefree life to the demands of motherhood was jarring, leaving her sometimes feeling isolated and overwhelmed. She missed her independence, the freedom to do as she pleased without the constant demands of a newborn. But through it all, their love for Miracle and their commitment to each other kept them going. They learned to communicate better, understanding when the other needed a break and stepping in to provide relief. They developed a routine that offered some semblance of order amidst the chaos. Leaning on each other for support, they grew stronger as a couple, each challenge they faced together serving as a testament to the depth of their love and resilience. With Miracle's arrival, Agochi and David began to think more seriously about their future. Parenthood had a way of sharpening priorities, making them more intentional about their decisions. They started having conversations about their dreams and plans, ensuring that whatever path they chose would align with the best interests of their son. David proposed the idea of moving in together to create a more stable home environment for Miracle. Though initially apprehensive, Agochi soon agreed, recognizing the importance of providing a consistent and nurturing space for their child to grow. They began searching for a place, and that felt like a fresh start, somewhere they could build new memories together as a family. After weeks of searching, they found a cozy apartment in a quiet neighborhood. It wasn't grand, but it was perfect for their needs. The space was filled with light, and there was a small park nearby where they could take Miracle for walks. As they unpacked their belongings and arranged their new home, Agochi and David felt a sense of accomplishment. This was the first step in the life they were building together, a life centered around their son and their shared hopes for the future. Amidst the chaos of parenthood, Agochi and David made a conscious effort to keep the romance alive. They understood that while being good parents was paramount, nurturing their relationship was equally important. It wasn't easy to find time for themselves, but they managed to carve out little moments of intimacy whenever they could. Sometimes, after Miracle had fallen asleep, they would share a quiet dinner together, talking about their day or reminiscing about their early days as a couple. These dinners became a cherished ritual, a way for them to reconnect and remind each other of the love that had brought them together in the first place. On other occasions, they would watch a movie or simply sit in silence, enjoying each other's company without the distractions of everyday life. They also made an effort to go on occasional dates, even if it was just a short walk in the park or grabbing a quick coffee. These moments, though brief, were vital in keeping the spark alive. They reminded Agochi and David that they were not just parents, but also partners who needed to nurture their relationship. The effort they put into maintaining their romance paid off, as it helped them to remain connected and in tune with each other's needs, even as they navigated the challenges of parenthood. As Miracle grew, so did the bond between Agochi, David, and their families. Agochi's parents, once hesitant and wary of the situation, found themselves falling in love with their grandson. Miracle's innocent smile and bright eyes melted their hearts, and they couldn't imagine their lives without him. Their relationship with David also improved significantly. They saw firsthand how devoted he was to Agochi and Miracle, and they began to appreciate his qualities as a father and partner. David, in turn, made an effort to include Agochi's parents in their lives, understanding how important it was for Miracle to have a strong relationship with his grandparents. David's family, from the start, had been welcoming and supportive. They were thrilled to have Agochi and Miracle as part of their family. Family gatherings became more frequent, filled with laughter, eating together, and the joyful noise of children playing. Agochi, who had initially felt like an outsider, was now fully embraced as one of their own. The sense of unity and love surrounding them was overwhelming, providing a source of strength and joy for Agochi and David. The bonds they forged with their families created a strong foundation for Miracle's upbringing. He was surrounded by love, not just from his parents, but from a wide network of people who cared deeply for him. This sense of belonging and support was something Agochi and David cherished, knowing it would play a significant role in shaping their son's future. Despite the progress they had made, there were still moments of doubt and insecurity that crept into Agochi and David's minds. Agochi occasionally found herself worrying about the judgments of others. She wondered if people still whispered about her behind her back, questioning her choices and the path she had taken. The thought of being scrutinized weighed heavily on her, and there were times when the anxiety threatened to overwhelm her. David, too, faced his own set of insecurities. The pressure of being a good father and partner sometimes felt like a burden he wasn't sure he could carry. He questioned whether he was doing enough, whether he was providing the best possible life for Agochi and Miracle. The responsibility of caring for his family also brought with it a level of stress that was hard to shake. But whenever these doubts arose, they turned to each other for reassurance. They had been through so much together, and the strength of their bond was undeniable. Agochi reminded David of the incredible father he was, pointing out all the little things he did that made Miracle smile. David, in turn, assured Agochi that the opinions of others didn't matter, that what truly mattered was the love and happiness they shared as a family. These moments of reassurance were crucial in helping them overcome their doubts. They realized that it was normal to have fears and insecurities, but what mattered most was how they dealt with them. By leaning on each other and focusing on the positive aspects of their lives, they were able to push through the doubts and continue building the life they wanted. As Miracle took his first steps and spoke his first words, Agochi and David were filled with an overwhelming sense of pride and joy. Their journey had not been easy, filled with unexpected twists and turns. But as they watched their son grow and thrive, they knew that every challenge they had faced had been worth it. Miracle's milestones were celebrated with great enthusiasm, each one a reminder of how far they had come as a family. His first steps, though wobbly, were met with cheers and applause. His first words, uttered in the soft, innocent voice of a child, brought tears to Agochi's eyes. These moments, small as they were the culmination of all their efforts, love, and dedication. Looking to the future, Agochi and David felt a renewed sense of hope and optimism. They had learned that life might not always go as planned, but with love, support, and determination, they could overcome any obstacle. The challenges they had faced had only made them stronger, both as individuals and as a couple. They knew that whatever lay ahead, they would overcome it with love and unity.